At the time, there was no other car like it. Hi, it's Bud Wilkinson. This time we're going back to the mid-1960s to take a look at the 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado. It is among the most memorable models from the 1960s. The Toronado from Oldsmobile, a division of General Motors. Mark Misercola from South Kent, Connecticut, has owned a maroon first-year 1966 Toronado for about 6 years.
It was Motor Trend's Car of the Year. It was the first production, it still, I think, is the distinction, the first production mass production front-wheel drive car in America. And it was the first one since the 37 Cord. And Oldsmobile was the innovation division. This thing had been worked on for 5-6 years, went through millions of miles of testing, and Oldsmobile put all of its marketing muscle behind this. This was a car that was going to revolutionize the auto market. And it did. I mean, there were no other front-wheel drive cars when this came out.
The Toronado was sporty, muscular, and luxurious, and its styling stood out from everything else on the road. That Misercola owns not one, but 3 old Oldsmobiles isn't surprising given his childhood. The others are a 1960 two-door convertible in white and a 1960 four-door sedan in gold.
I grew up in an Oldsmobile family. There's like the guy in Christmas Story. Some men are Baptists, some men are Catholics. My old man was an Oldsmobile man, and it went with the territory. And my father got great success with these cars. He had them for 10 years or more up in Buffalo, and they were still going. They had a lot of holes in them, but they were still going. And then I think along about when I was in 4th or 5th grade, out comes the Toronado. And it was big news. I mean, everybody would go there in September to see the unveiling. I remember building the models as a kid, and it just had a fascination with me. And the advertising, it's right out of the Mad Men era. This is the car that, for the man you aspire to be. This was the car it was the muscle car for executives. And I saw those ads. Some people aspired to be the Marlboro Man. I wanted to be the guy, the executive with the car, and looking like I was successful, and I bought into all that.
Consequently, his first car was a Toronado, a 1968 model.
When I got my first internship as a writer right out of high school, one was available at a local Olds dealer, and I got it. And that's how it started. It's an addiction.
It may be hard to believe now, but back when the Toronado came out, it was a big deal because of some of its features.
It was inspired by the coffin nose on the 36, 37 Cord. The designer that designed it, that was, and you look at them side by side and you can see the similarities. Got the hideaway headlights that were vacuum actuated. The front floorboard is flat. That was nobody had ever seen that before. The drivetrain is not there. Everything is, you've got 6 feet of hood in front of you, and that's got the engine, forward mounted, and you got the transmission right behind it. It's all squished in like a pancake. So there's no need for a hump floor back.
Misercola's 66 Toronado is powered by a 425 cubic inch V8 engine with automatic transmission and a notable mechanism.
It's called a planetary drive. That's their Oldsmobile's space age kind of marketing. You can hear this kind of when it's changing gears, you can hear it making this kind of whirring noise that is different. It sounds like something almost like a sci-fi movie. And it's very cool. It's hard to describe the ride. The feel in the ride is unparalleled.
Misercola located the Toronado in Providence, Rhode Island.
Turned out, the car originated in my hometown up in Buffalo. It was owned by an Oldsmobile zone dealer who used to take new prospective buyers out, and he did that for a couple of years, got transferred to New England, and my understanding is he worked for the company for a long time, kept the car, but then got sick, unfortunately died. The car sat for a long time. Family was just looking to make sure it went to a good home. I think it may have sat for as long as 15 or 20 years, and the body was in good shape. There wasn't a whole lot of rust, but mechanically it was running on 6 cylinders. And hadn't been started up in a while. The previous owners got it started, got it running, but we couldn't drive it back. We had to have it towed back.
It was eventually determined that an engine rebuild was necessary.
I think the car at some point just kind of said, I like being broke and I don't want to cooperate. The rebuild The problem was I'm getting smoke and blow by coming back in. I go over 50 miles an hour. The first time it happened, I almost died. I had smoke coming through the vents and right through the steering column. And I thought, oh no, the car's on fire. It turned out it was all smoke from oil burning inside the car.
While Misercola is making memories with his current Toronado, memories of his first one linger, including one involving a first date.
First date, this blonde from New York. She was from Brooklyn. And I thought I'd just become a man, because in Buffalo you got dates with locals, but you very rarely, it was never heard of, you get a date with someone from New York. I spent the day cleaning up the car, pulled up, took her out to dinner, and I took her to a really nice place in Niagara Falls that I couldn't afford. She gets into the car, I let her in, open the door for her, close it. I get in, I sit down, she goes, "Where's the hump?" I said, "Excuse me?" She goes, "Where's the hump?" And she's pointing to the floor. She says, "There's no hump in the floor." And I looked, and I don't know what came over me, because this really wasn't me. I looked and I said, well, I had nothing else to do, so this morning I got the blowtorch out and I just cut it out. I got rid of it. It was just bothering me. And she says, "Why'd you do that?" And I said, well, I thought if nothing else, we could be close together later on. And you could just feel the chill just kind of descend over the car from there. To her credit, we went through the date, never became more than just friends. We're good friends. We still keep in touch. She lives on the West Coast. And I frequently remind her about that story. And sometimes I write about it in the column that I do for the Oldsmobile magazine. And I get guys responding to it. That's their favorite part of the column.
Besides writing a column, Misercola is also co-author of a book devoted to classic cars. When did the book come out and what's the story?
2019. I co-wrote it with a friend of mine I went to high school with. And we picked out 12 of the cars that we thought had the most memorable and outstanding front grills, and did the stories behind them.
Misercola's passion for the Toronado persists. It has lasted from childhood and is perhaps even stronger today because of,
well, the way it rides. You drive it, you know that this is not a conventional rear-wheel drive car. It's pulling you. It kind of hugs the corner. It's huge, but it hugs the corners.
The Toronado only has about 70,000 miles on its odometer, only 6,000 since the engine was rebuilt. But it does get driven.
During the summer, the warm months, yeah. I try, even in the cold weather, if there's no salt or snow on the ground, I'll take it out for spins just to keep it going. These cars do not like to sit, but I try and I get it out on a regular basis.
That's Ride Connecticut. I'm Bud Wilkinson, and if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe.